Well, welcome to the August 10th koha-US General Meeting. Are there any announcements?
I would say Andrew, who is here, has taken over the System Administration Special Interest Group. So I wanted to thank him. And if you know Andrew, he was an educator at Bywater Solutions and is incredibly knowledgeable of such things. So I think we're in good hands there.
Good, I can start making that knowledge external before it entirely degrades within my head. But yeah, happy to be here, happy to help.
We're so glad to have you in that role, Andrew. It's going to be great. So we also have a vacancy in the treasurer on the board. So if you would like to work as treasurer, you'd be working very closely with John, who is the financial manager. And so think about that for yourself. Think about it for one of your friends. We will be having, I guess, general board elections in like the October, November timeframe, I think, after the conference. And then we had on there our system administration vacancy, but now it's not vacant, so that's great. Let's see, we have an upcoming bylaws amendment vote. It was sort of going to happen last month, but it didn't. So I'll be sending out an announcement to koha-US members about the upcoming vote. The vote is to limit the submission of developments to the development committee to koha-US members only. And I'll be sending that announcement out, and voting will take place between August 17th and it would close on the 31st. We have any questions, discussion on that? All right. And then the next thing we thought is people have already upgraded or maybe are very close to upgrading. Just a general discussion on your upgrade experiences. How has it gone? Issues you've faced, new features you've tried out. So who all is upgraded? I have, so fair number of us. How's it going?
We had a minor thing that happened. Of course, you know, we knew about the cover flow breaking, and Bywater switched us over immediately on that. So we didn't have to. I noticed that some people had to remind Bywater that they needed their cover flow upgraded after the koha upgrade, but ours was upgraded, and so that went fairly smooth. The thing that broke for us, and this is a jQuery modification that we did, but one thing that was changed in koha 2111 that was not really announced was they changed their date pickers in koha. And so on the checkout screen, if you use the date picker to choose another date, ours was broken because I had some jQuery that would fix the focus of that, because the calendar doesn't go away when you select a date. It just stays there, and you just kind of have to click somewhere else in order to get back to the checkout, and you have to put the focus back on the text box for the barcode and everything. So we had some jQuery in there, and apparently this new date picker didn't like that. And so it was making it impossible for people to actually choose a date. So I had to get rid of that jQuery. I'll have to find something else to replace that with. But yeah, so they had a new date picker in there, and it doesn't didn't play nice with some jQuery. So be aware of that, make sure that works for you. And but otherwise, I think this is one of the smoother upgrades.
So yesterday at the system admin SIG, Barbara, you brought up an issue where the search results aren't showing your availability in the OPAC. And we talked about these system preferences. And I discovered that I had that problem too, because it was defaulting to show 1 and show 0. So I had to up that so that my libraries actually showed up in the results. And it's still, and I also had to change it to, like, there's the third one. Since we're a consortium, I had to change it to subset instead of branch because it was doing some weird duplication with the XSLT. Also, I have a custom XSLT in my OPAC, which didn't play well. So I have to do away with that to make it all work again. So I had some non-trivial issues with that as well. On the staff search results, did it used to have a due date in that column on the right when something was checked out? One of my libraries seems to think it did, and it doesn't now. So I want to know if I'm crazy.
I don't remember that.
You don't remember that? Okay.
No.
I mean, it's not a bad idea.
Yeah, it'd be really cool.
All right. Yeah, did it work that way before? Can't tell now.
Yeah, on that items, the thing Jason was talking about where he referenced the OPAC results max items. I realized that I had some jQuery, or no, it was some CSS, I think, that was doing something for another reason and had an unintended result. So I was able to get back some of my available items information. And what I was looking at is it used to say, like, it might say no items available. This is on the OPAC results pages. I believe it would say no items available, and it would say like 4 checked out, 2 on hold, you know, if that's what you had. And so now it'll just say no items available. But on another record, if you've got, say, 10 copies and 4 of them are out, it basically looks like it's changed the behavior. So instead of telling you what's not available, it's telling you what is available. So in that case, it would say 6 copies are available. That's how I related to it. And we're a single library. So I tried playing with those OPAC max results, those 3 system preferences. It didn't seem to make a difference for us. And that may be partly because we're just a single library instead of a consortium. I don't know.
Let me show you what mine looks like, Heather. I'll show you what I'm talking about because that's not clear. That's not what I wanted. Okay, so this is what Barbara's talking about. So for us, these unavailable messages weren't showing anymore on our OPAC until I tweaked the XSLT and the settings. Like it would just get it, like make it disappear entirely.
And that's where mine is just say if things are checked out, it just says no items available, and it doesn't show the checked out too. It's just no items. So I'm still working on that part.
Do you have like a different style sheet in here? Because this is what was messing up mine.
Yeah, I'm sure I've got something that's conflicting somehow.
Yeah. On the staff search results. So what I was looking at. Oh, and this looks worse, but this is what I'm talking about here. They seem to think that it used to have like the date due on these checked out items over here, so you could quickly glance over there and see that the item was out without clicking into it. Because on my live server, it's a little different. I've got that custom. So right now, if it's checked out, it says one checked out, and I need to fix this so it's cleaner. But if it really has to do with the local copies, because the local copies get sorted out with this custom code, and then it's not extremely obvious that those items are not available because it doesn't have any indication when those get broken out. So I'll work on putting a due date or some sort of indicator there and share that if I can figure it out.
Unmute now. Made me look up mine, and mine does have the due date.
I'm not crazy. Well, the librarian that told me about it wasn't crazy. So something in the XSLT changed then on those search results.
Let me see if I can share my screen. Let's see if I'm talking about what you're talking about. Okay. Can you see my screen? It
Not
says
yet.
Library Reserve.
Not yet.
Okay. Oh, maybe if I actually click share. I'm using two monitors. Okay. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah. So we lost that. And I don't think that it was something I did.
We never had it, so I'm jealous.
Let me see what version this is. I think it's
You're still in 3x, right?
3.18, I think. 2105.
I think we may have had it, but again, it's one of those things that's like, did we or didn't we? And it seems like if we did and it went away, staff would have been in my office very quickly, but I don't know. I kind of feel like it was there.
Well, I tell you how I did it, but I don't know how I did it.
So what other things have people noticed from upgrades?
We have a like a barcode prefix thing, and it wasn't a plugin, but now it's been developed in the plugin, but we were still set up with the coded one that they just add to our build. And that with this version screwed up a variety of unexpected things. And so they just had to switch us over to the new plugin that they've developed, and that seems to be working. Although we have a few libraries that had migrated a while ago and still have some old barcodes that have like characters and spaces in them from previous systems, and it wasn't designed to read that until Kyle looked at it this morning and then quickly allowed it to do that. So I think we're mostly good. We're still having a problem that I don't know what the issue is, where everybody can edit everybody else's items, which we didn't want. So that seems like our only major problem left over. But as per usual, our unique setup has created havoc that others don't get to experience. So all the testing doesn't others do and go first usually doesn't apply to our situation, and we break things fine on our own.
We had an issue if you use the advanced cataloging editor. Even though you've got it selected to say, use advanced, every time you would go into the advanced editor, it would go to the basic editor and you'd have to switch to the advanced. And then it would retain that selection as long as you were, logged in. And once you logged out, next time you went in, it would go to the basic editor and you'd have to switch off of it. And it has something to do with a new change in removing cookies. And it's bug 31250, which looks like Nick has already signed off on it. So hopefully, that'll go through. It's not a big deal. It's just a little annoyance where it seems like if you've chosen that in your system preferences, then it seems like it ought to go where you want it to go instead of, making you first go to the basic and then click over to the advanced.
I posted bug 30230 in the chat box, and this is related to the new searching for patrons. There used to be a separate checkout search and a separate patron search. Now they've been merged into one, but that means that unless you have edit borrower's permission, you can't search for a borrower through the checkout interface. You have to have edit borrower's permission in order to be able to even search for a patron, which probably isn't a problem for most libraries, but it is for ours because we have some staff with very limited abilities.
We also noticed that we were adding some additional copies of some titles, and I was going into the items and using duplicate the previous item in order to bring the values forward and then make my small edits. And the item I had just created, I looked at it and it had 47 checkouts and 52 renewals, and it's like, wait, how can that happen? So there is a bug on that, and I think they already have a patch written, which is supposed to come out in the 2111.06 maybe. So if you've done any duplicating of items, you may have gotten some weird checkouts and renewals on them. Looks like Rhonda has experienced that.
I found a bug about my search results K2 issue. It looks like it's been pushed to 2211, so hopefully we can get it backported.
Any other upgrade experiences? All right, well, I see Christopher pointed out that we forgot to include something on the agenda regarding the skill collaborators page that is now on the website. And Christopher, you want to talk more about that?
Yeah, it's not exactly live yet. I haven't
right.
put it in the menus, but basically, a while back, we had decided we were going to revamp the whole what was it? It was members mentorship, and we came up with the idea that we were going to transition into something called skill collaborators. And basically what it is we are going to for this year, for the remainder of this year, we're going to show a page. We're going to have a page that talks about skill collaborators, and we'll have members. It'll be accessible by members only, and you'll be able to fill out a survey and instantly add your information to the results page. But basically listing, if you want to be a skill collaborator, meaning that you want to let people know what your skills in Koha are and what people can ask you about, you can add that to the list and basically let people know what your strengths are in Koha. And if somebody has a question in that area, they have a list of people that they can choose from to bug to ask questions about that particular topic. And so we thought this was a better approach because we're basically just putting ourselves out there to the members only, saying, you know, these are my strengths. If you have questions about things, let me know. It takes off the pressure of having to reach out to somebody and find out if they need anything. It takes off the pressure of being one-on-one, and it gives you a pool of people to as a resource rather than one specific person. So I think this is a much better approach to sharing our knowledge with each other. But what we'll do is we'll make that page available under membership, and we'll probably, I guess what we could do is we can plan on unveiling that at the conference. We did want to mention it today, but we'll talk about that at the conference and show where that link is, and we'll also send that out to existing members and encourage everybody to fill that out that want to be part of that, the skill collaborators. But then it'll become part of the membership registration in following years. We had to separate it out for this year since we have membership established for this year, and we'll just link to it for those that are coming on board the remainder of the year. But we've made good progress with that, and I'm happy with how the list functions. It's nice because you can enter your information in and it's instantly on the list. And again, it'll be under the membership option. So basically you use the same password that you get to the actual membership list. You'll use that same password to get to this list. So it is protected information for our members only.
Okay, so next thing we had on here was to look at a particular bug, 30952, which is for the new staff interface that is being developed by BibLead. However, I went to the sandbox that they established this morning, and even though I'd been in it recently, it's now reverted back to the normal koha, so you can't see any of the new screens or anything right now. We were thinking it would be, it would be a good activity to, promote discussion on looking at some of the screens, seeing what's being proposed, just get an idea of the changes to the layout, the colors, those kinds of things. And the bug is there, link to the bug is there in the chat. There are a few screenshots on there, so you can get a little bit of an idea, but hopefully they'll have that back up and running at some point. I think, it's your daily work on the staff side, and it makes a real big difference on how that flows for you, how efficient that is, how easy things are to see, where they are. So, okay. And then we had bug 20271, which has to do with merging deleted biblio items, biblio metadata, and items table. And I think Christopher knows a little bit about that one, and can you tell us about that?
Yeah, the conversation came up somewhere, and somebody, Jason pointed out this bug to me. I believe it was Jason that pointed it out to me, that it's frustrating to have items or patrons that are deleted and put in a separate table because we lose a lot of links to things. And it also makes it difficult if you mistakenly deleted something, you can't undelete it. And to have somebody like Bywater or another vendor try and reconnect that stuff is really, really difficult. And so the concept of this bug, if I'm reading it correctly and understanding it correctly, is that they don't remove deleted items from these tables. Basically, they flag them. And I think that is a fantastic idea because it makes it so much more incredibly easy to undelete something. All you have to do is remove a flag and basically it's back. Which is, you know, it's like, why didn't we have this concept from the beginning? I mean, this is a no-brainer type of a patch. I wish Koha had started off this way, but you know, it's, you know, you get going with something from the ground up, and you know, things take a life of their own. But this is a good re-steering of Koha with deleted things. And looked like the bug stalled out in 2020. I've generated some discussion on this again, and it looks like basically it stalled because they weren't getting people that could test. And I said, you know, if you can get this going again, I'm sure we can generate enough interest in at least koha-US to get some people to go and test this. This is a good direction for Koha. I can't say good enough, but it's a good direction for Koha, because I know how frustrated I've been with things that have been deleted, and all these different links are broken. It affects accounts, it affects tracking who checked out what, it can affect stats. I think this is the way to go, and I would love people to go to the bug and chime in. Did we get the link for that bug on there, or is it just on the agenda?
It's on the agenda. Let's see.
But I would love for people to go to that bug and at least chime in about their thoughts on that, and really try and generate more interest in this to get it going again. But I would also encourage people, if this is going again and they put it up for testing, please test, because this is something that we severely need in Koha. And you know, I just think of the ability to undo deletions would be a huge thing, and this is a step in the right direction for that.
But George says he doesn't like it.
Well, I don't like George.
I was just being contrary. I think it's fine.
And it looks
And I
like-
was trying to get a sandbox set up with bug 30952, but it won't. I can't get it to apply. So it might be that there's something going on with that right now. So.
And it looks like Andrew also alerted us to, where did that go? Oh, the same kind of thing that you're talking about, Christopher, that there's a bug 25260 for doing that with reserves and old reserves. So there's something going on for that part too. So that's good.
Awesome.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. So we are at, oh, okay, so we're at committee updates. So conference, we're having a conference, KohaCon 22, September 20th through 23rd in Lawrence, Kansas. If you haven't registered, you really should. It is a hybrid conference. We'd love to see you in person, but we'd also love to see you participate online.
We have 420 people registered for this conference.
Yeah.
81, I believe, in person.
So yeah, and last I checked too, I believe we have people registered from 6 of 7 continents. So we're covering the world with our conference. And if anybody from Antarctica registers, then will be 100%.
Nobody from Middle Earth either.
Let's see. Trying to think other things about the conference. We're going to have a conference committee after this. We've got lots of details to work out. Maybe if somebody can post the link to the koha-US page with the link to the conference, which is where you can register. There is the schedule is posted there. If you're coming, there's information on the 2 venues that we'll be at and hotel information. And I see George has recently been sending out some wonderful restaurant recommendations. I'm excited to try different places in Lawrence. Do you have questions about the conference?
I haven't eaten at many of the restaurants I'm going to be posting. I'm just posting the names of restaurants.
They look great.
The one of those 3 I've eaten at is good. And I've got another one lined up for today. So
If you tip the maitre d', can you get a seat at the counter?
the one that Jason went with me last week to one of them, and there is no maitre d' and there is no counter. It's classy.
Uh-oh, I'd have to dress up then.
Okay, so next is Development Committee, Christopher.
So yeah, the development committee is going to be meeting Friday, and we have pretty much one thing on our agenda to deal with, and that's our latest bug. So, okay, here's the scoop. We cut loose our developer. We had a hard time with development with them, and when all was said and done, they just didn't want to work on the bug. It was frustrating. It was pulling teeth trying to get them to do it. I mean, what they did was great. It did what it was supposed to do, and we had to have Owen go in at the end and finish some stuff that they just refused to comply with. So Owen did that, and we went through QA, and QA put the brakes on the development because the developer did not abide by the community standards in their coding. Joy. So now we have to have somebody go through and clean up all of their code according to community standards. So right now, I'm in communication with another developer that was helping on this bug. They have moved on, but I reached out to them and asked them if they are able to help, and this person is looking into it, see if they can. I'm waiting to hear back from them, but we're gonna have to develop a plan B if they can't help. Owen has done what he can, but I'm I don't know how much more Owen can do at this point. So we're going to have to try and figure out, where we go from here to get this patch cleaned up. It's frustrating because like I said, it does exactly what we want it to do. It allows the patron to be able to mark something, a message is read, and it just disappears from their page, but we still see it on the staff side, and we can see that it's been read and when, but but yeah, it just doesn't meet the coding standards for the community, and that's frustrating with all the hassle that we went through with the developer. So we'll have to decide, if it can be done by somebody, or if we're going to have to put more finances behind it in order to get it finished right. So that's where we stand right now. And of course, we've got some workflow things that we're working on for the back end to improve these situations so we don't run into these problems again. But then we also have, of course, Barbara mentioned the vote on who can submit ideas for development. So that's where we are.
Okay, thank you, Christopher. So now we had Education Committee. Do we have an update?
Well, that's me,
Anyone?
isn't it?
I think you missed the meeting.
I think I did too. Time zone issue or something. I don't remember. I wasn't there.
No, you were it was the wrong day. We had a term for it, but we're
That
not.
was the
gonna
wrong
make it-
day. Oh,
We're
yeah,
not
that's
gonna make
right.
it a thing.
That's right.
I was there, and Fred and Lauren were there. I scratched a few notes, but really we just kind of sat around and chatted for an hour. I did get a mailing list page up on the website that clarifies a little bit better how our mailing lists work. That was one of the goals. So, and it's got a distinction between our mailing list versus the global mailing list. And then it talks about Google Groups and sort of how you interact with it. If you don't have a Google account, how to unsubscribe, that sort of thing. I have this little scrap of paper that I took notes on. We talked about maybe coming up with a way to sort of unmuddy what was meant by supported versus unsupported and clarify that koha-US is neither of those things. We're a users group and not a support company. So getting that on the website somewhere. Fred talked about he was putting final touches on his most recent video project. Let's see. I think that's pretty much all I've got on my notes. It was same old, discussing the website and then discussing curating content. What we do.
All righty, thanks, Jason. Finance, John.
Things continue to look good. We're at 41 members now. We had somebody join in July, and this was a renewal, as it were, as opposed to a new member. A lot of the activity you see for June and July is related to the conference. We're now spending money for the conference. As you can see, we paid our deposit to NEKLS, which is hosting the first 2 days, and we're also still wrapping up our ALA expenditures. You see $181 there for the required liability insurance in case somebody fell and broke their pinky nail on our table. We would not be held liable, nor would ALA. With regard to other things, you see a very large spike in revenue in July. That's related to donations that we are receiving for the conference. And the expenditures you see, that's also relatively large relative to what we have generally. 1,000 of that is related to the payoff of the contract with Auto Parallel Technologies that Christopher talked about when he was talking about the development. Same thing with the PayPal balance. Again, that's a lot of income related to donations for the conference. The usual PayPal sweep will not be done until the end of October. It's possible that some people will prefer to be paid through PayPal instead of by check or by credit card. I don't know who, but it's possible. And so as a result, the PayPal balance will not be swept at the end of every month like it has traditionally been until we get to after a point where the conference expenses will have either been paid or otherwise cleared. I don't have yet a final accounting report for ALA. Fred, who was gracious enough to staff the booth for a majority of the time that the exhibit hall was open, has not yet submitted his expenses to me. So once I get those, I will cut Fred a check and provide then a detailed accounting of what went into our final expenses for the booth, noting that it will come under budget of $2,000. We're supposed to be talking about a fiscal activity calendar and possible preparation for a treasurer. That will be presented at the September board meeting and by extension at the September general meeting. And of course, the finance committee is always looking for members. If you're interested, please contact me at treasurer@koha-US.org. Are there any questions?
Well, not so much a question, but a comment. I actually submitted this expenses to you. This looks like you didn't get it. It was from.
No, I did not. Did you send it to my treasurer address, Fred, or did you use one of my other ones?
I can't remember, but I will send it to you again.
Please do, and please send it to my treasurer address. Thank you.
Okay. And yeah, that. Afraid I'm not donating. Rest may cover my some of my conference expenses, so I can pretend it's not. I can pretend it's new money coming in.
As long as the chicken gets to come, that's all that matters.
I'm jealous of the chicken. And you can't mail people anymore. You can mail chickens.
We won't go down that dark road. Are there any other questions or comments? If not, thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you, John. We still have a fundraising chair vacancy, so we would welcome anyone, or if you know a person whose passion or skills are fundraising, you might point them our way. So we still have about 15 or so minutes if you want to talk about other bugs, issues, just anything.
I would love somebody to volunteer to be our treasurer, because John works so hard for us, and every little bit helps. And I think if we can't get a volunteer, we should put all the members up in a lottery at the conference.
I can't see an easier way to get people to stop becoming members.
And here's what you do. If you don't attend the conference, you end up in person. You end up in this mystical lottery.
No, but of all the positions, I mean, this is one that has built-in support with John behind you, and I can't think of a better person to help somebody in a position that might make some people nervous, dealing with the funds of an organization. But honestly, John makes it look effortless, but John does a lot of heavy lifting, and the treasurer just helps make that go a little bit more smoothly for him. And so, if somebody can come along and help him, and again, you have John to back you up and answer questions. So, if it's something that you're not sure about, please at least talk with John and what it entails. We've updated our information in bylaws to outline what those responsibilities are, but please ask questions. Being involved in a board has good benefits for you in just helping you be a part of some things and branching out and taking some risks. Not taking risks with koha-US, but just doing a little bit more. It always looks good on a resume when you're part of a board. So please, if you have questions or you're thinking about doing it, please reach out to one of us or John and ask questions. Let us know that you're interested.
So what other kinds of things can we talk about besides bugs or whatever? You know, what do you want from koha-US? You know, is there something that we're not doing that you've got an idea of something would, you know, be great that koha-US could do? Is it doing what you want? Must be, since no one says anything. We must be perfect, I guess. I don't know.
Anything interesting going on at libraries these days? Any fun programs, or
Well,
it doesn't just have to be about Koha?
We just finished summer reading club, and for the second year in a row, our party at the end is this gentleman that comes in and sets up a mini putt-putt golf course for the kids. And he has stuffed animal. You have to putt around stuffed animals and all kinds of different things. And they had a blast.
There's a library near here that does that every year with local businesses come and each set up a hole in the library building. And so you putt around the library. It's always really cute.
Cool.
Well, mine.
Oh, go ahead.
Mine is nowhere near as exciting, but I think we finally decided our library to move the giveaway book cart over to an actual bookshelf near the door so people can see it. And we found someone who will take an awful lot of the books that I'm weeding from my collection. Just sad, but I have to. And I found someone else who's also interested in donating books for the giveaway collection.
Were you going to add something, Christopher?
Yeah, not something that, well, it's something that the library is doing, but something that took off unexpectedly. I had an idea for something that we were doing in Koha, or we weren't doing in Koha. Now we are doing it Koha, and other libraries have jumped on and have taken advantage of this. Now I know that there is a component to Koha that can accomplish kind of the same thing, but not in the way that we wanted originally. So basically, we had a staff member say, okay, I want to add information on our patron application forms to find out if people want to be part of a newsletter. And so people could check that off. And then staff were supposed to go into some list on a file somewhere and add their information to it. And she was finding that half the time they weren't even doing that. So she had to go through and through those forms and make sure people were added to that. And I said, well, what if I just put a place where, in the patron information where you could, can say that this person wants to be part of the newsletter. And she said that would be great, and we could run a report against it. And so we can run a report against a particular library, and so we could have, several libraries have an option for sign up in there. So basically, I took the patron attributes and I added that, but she wanted a date as well, which complicated it a bit. So I had to create a second patron attribute, which I had to hide. But if you selected something in the first patron attribute, then it puts today's date in there. So we know when they sign up. So she wanted this information so that she could send them a welcome and know that she did that. So that's why she needed that date. So we've created these two patron attributes. One is hidden, one is and is affected by the other patron attribute, which is really cool. It's sad that you can't have multiple fields tied together within Koha. You have to kind of trick it to do that. But I figured out how to do that, and it works really well. And I let other libraries know, and we have several libraries that decided, oh yeah, we want to be a part of that as well. I created an authorized value that becomes a drop down for that, so you can select which newsletter you want to sign up for. The drawback is we only have it set up for you can only select one at a time. You can't select multiple. Now, technically, patron attribute, you can set up you can set it up so you can select multiple or make copies of that attribute, basically. But because it's tied into another attribute, it made that very difficult, if not impossible, for me to be able to duplicate that. So I couldn't give them that option. There is a feature within Koha called Patron Lists that would be ideal for something like this, but a couple of caveats with it. Patron Lists, first of all, there's no way to add a date when somebody was added to it. Unfortunately, that would be nice if there was if it had some sort of timestamp within there. It doesn't even have the timestamp, which is frustrating. So that kind of said, no, we can't do that. The other thing that we decided it just wasn't a good fit was you can't link these lists into a patron account. You can go outside of the patron account and sign people up in these lists. It would be nice if you could say, hey, I want this to be an option within a patron account, so you can go in from a patron account while you're signing somebody up and add them to multiple lists. It would be nice, but it doesn't do that yet. So, you know, those are a couple things that would be nice down the road and make patron lists even more usable. And I think it would be a good idea to be able to tie that in from the patron account side of things, rather than having to go straight to the lists outside of the account. It just makes it a little more cumbersome to do that. But, oh, Andrew's got something to say.
You looked at clubs at all? I don't love patron clubs, but they would allow you, there would be a place in the patron record to add them to clubs, and then patrons could also put themselves in clubs from the OPAC.
I forgot about the clubs. We
it
haven't utilized the clubs, but yeah, that might be an idea. Does it do any kind of time stamping in that?
Yeah, it looks like it saves a date enrolled
Oh, okay.
in the club enrollments table.
Well, that's good to know. Maybe I'll look at that. But you can do that from the patron account as well. You can do it from the staff side.
Yeah, it creates a tab in the the part of the patron record that says checkouts, holds, fines. It creates a new tab that's clubs. Okay,
I'll have to look at that. Yeah, I don't like reinventing the wheel if there's something there that can do it. And so far, we've had a lot of people jump onto this, and so if I can convert it over to clubs and have it be something built in, that would be awesome. And it would be better if they can sign up for multiple things rather than only one.
Yeah.
Cool.
That's what I like about Koha is there's all kinds of different ways to make things work differently for your own purposes.
Including things that it was never really designed for. Infinitely configurable.
Well, it's kind of weird because I didn't think about clubs. I'm this is the great thing about having a user group, because you can say, oh, I did this, but I wish there was a better way to do it. Oh, there is a better way to do it. But it's kind of weird that, okay, we've got patron lists and we got clubs. Clubs would do it sounds like clubs might do the job better, but it seems like it's doing what lists should do. I don't know. And it's kind of weird that we have lists and clubs? And it's like, what is the true difference between lists and clubs? I mean, they must have some primary function that's different from one another, or did we just kind of reinvent the wheel within Koha?
So we use clubs for holds, club holds. So like, you can't do that from patron lists, but I think you can use patron lists to do like batch modifications. So I think there's different functionality tied. I agree that they do sort of serve the same purpose and could possibly be combined, but
Yeah, that's what I'm using. That's what I'm using borrow patron lists for, is to batch modify groups of people, particularly like for our schools. You put all the students into a list, and then from that list, I can create library cards, and I can batch modify them at the end of the school year. I can do all kinds of things with them that I can't do with clubs. But that being said, it wouldn't have been that hard to take the lists and I don't think it would have been that hard to take the lists and turn them into the functionality that clubs has now. So the biggest advantage of clubs, I think, for what you're trying to do is borrowers could go in and sign themselves up for a list. You know, if you made these lists, if you made these mailing lists clubs, you could have people could go in and sign themselves up and remove themselves when they decide, oh, I don't want to get this email from the library every week anymore. They can go in and take themselves off that. So
and that would be ideal. And you know, this topic, you know, this discussion, you know, George, I think this is a good topic for our videos at some point, you know, clubs versus patron lists.
yeah, maybe it'd be nice to get somebody in there that actually uses them. Like have a guest. I could talk about how I use lists, but I can't talk about how I use clubs. I guess I have one library that's using them, but not, but I think only one. And they're using them exactly for what they were created for, because it was a development sponsored by Southeast Kansas Library System, I believe. And it's, you know, they're using them. They've got like every time there's a new James Patterson book, they've got a James Patterson club, and the director there can put everybody in the James Patterson club on the request list for whatever James Patterson book is new this week or this afternoon. And so that they work perfectly for that, and that's something you can't do with the list. So.
Okay, well, we're at the top of the hour and George had the last word. And we will have our conference committee meeting immediately following. So if you're on the conference committee, stay here and we will meet. Since next month is the conference, our general meeting will be at the conference, I think on the 21st of September. So everybody have a great day, and conference committee, please stay in the room.